The ancient oak's massive trunk exploded in a shower of bark and splinters as Luna Sage crashed through it, her silver wolf form tumbling end over end. She hit the packhouse's stained glass window at full speed, the centuries-old artwork shattering into 1,000 rainbow fragments around her as she sailed through the air and landed with a bone-jarring thud on top of the most powerful, and most feared, Alpha in North America. Alpha King Damien Blackthorn had been in the middle of rejecting his fifth potential mate this season when 120 pounds of panicked she-wolf slammed into his chest, knocking him flat on his back in front of half the Crescent Moon Pack's elite. The scent of Hunter's silver bullets still clung to her fur, but it was instantly overwhelmed by something else entirely, something that made every wolf in the Great Hall go dead silent. The golden bond that flared between them the instant Luna's paws touched Damien's chest was impossible. Omega wolves didn't bond with Alpha Kings. Ever. It was against every law of nature, every rule that governed their kind, every tradition that had kept the werewolf world stable for millennia. But there it was, burning bright as sunfire between them, visible to everyone in the room as threads of pure gold light that wrapped around their bodies like living silk. Luna shifted back to human form instinctively, her emergency clothes materializing as her magic kicked in, but she was still sprawled across the Alpha King's broad chest, staring down into eyes that had gone from their usual storm gray to molten silver. His hands had come up automatically to steady her, and where his palms touched her waist, the bond pulsed stronger. Impossible, breathed someone behind her. Luna scrambled backward, but Damien's grip tightened reflexively, his wolf having taken over. She could see the exact moment his legendary control snapped, his pupils dilated, his canines extended, and a low growl rumbled from deep in his chest. "Let go," Luna whispered, but her own wolf was singing, practically purring at the contact. This was all wrong. She was nobody, an Omega orphan who cleaned the packhouse floors and tended the healing gardens. He was the Alpha King, ruler of the largest territory in the continent, a man so powerful that other Alphas crossed oceans just to avoid offending him. "I can't," Damien said, his voice rough. His eyes were locked on hers, and she could see the same confusion and impossible recognition there that was tearing through her own chest. The sharp crack of heels on marble broke the spell. "How dare you!" Luna's blood turned to ice as Celeste Moonridge stalked toward them, her perfect face twisted with rage. The Alpha's daughter was supposed to be Damien's mate. Their engagement had been announced 3 months ago, a political alliance that would unite the two most powerful packs on the East Coast. "Celeste," Damien started, but he still hadn't let go of Luna. "Don't." Celeste's voice could have frozen fire. "Don't you dare speak to me while you're holding that Omega." The word dripped with disgust, and Luna flinched. She tried again to pull away, but Damien's hands were like steel bands around her waist. "The bond," he said quietly, almost to himself. "It's real. It's impossible." Elder Marcus stepped forward from the crowd that had gathered, his ancient face grave. "Alpha King, you must release the girl immediately. Whatever this is, it cannot be allowed to continue." But when Damien tried to let go, his hands actually shook with the effort. The golden threads binding them pulsed brighter, and Luna felt an answering pull in her chest so strong it was painful. "I've never seen anything like it," whispered Elder Sarah, her eyes wide. "The bond it's stronger than anything I've witnessed in 70 years. Celeste let out a sound of pure fury. "It doesn't matter how strong it is. She's an Omega. The Council will never." "The Council will do what they must," Elder Marcus said grimly. "But first, we must understand what we're dealing with." He looked directly at Luna, and she saw something that made her stomach drop, fear. "Child, what is your lineage? Who were your parents?" "I don't know," Luna said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I was found as a baby. No one knows where I came from." The elders exchanged looks that made Luna's skin crawl. "This changes nothing," Celeste snapped. "Unknown lineage makes it worse, not better. She could be anyone, a rogue's daughter, a criminal's offspring. The Alpha King cannot be bonded to some foundling Omega." "But he is bonded to her," Elder Sarah said softly. "Look at them, Celeste. The bond is already forming. Within hours, it will be unbreakable." Luna felt the truth of it in her bones. Every second that passed, every breath they shared, was weaving them tighter together. She could already sense Damien's emotions bleeding through, confusion, desire, and underneath it all, a fierce protectiveness that terrified her. There has to be a way to break it, Celeste said desperately. There are rituals. Not for a true mate bond, Elder Marcus said. And certainly not for one this strong. He stepped closer to Luna and Damien, studying the golden threads that connected them. This isn't just any bond. This is ancient. Primal. I haven't seen markings like these since. He stopped abruptly, his face going pale. Since when? Damien demanded, his alpha authority cutting through the chaos. Elder Marcus was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with dread. Since the last lunar eclipse pack. Before they were destroyed. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Every wolf knew the story of the lunar eclipse pack, the most powerful bloodline in werewolf history, wiped out in a single night nearly 30 years ago. They were the stuff of legends, wolves who could bond across rank, who could shift at will, whose alphas could control multiple packs without effort. You're saying Celeste started. I'm saying we need an emergency tribunal, Elder Marcus said grimly. Tonight. And until then, the Alpha King and the girl are not to be left alone together. He looked directly at Damien. The bonding process must not be completed until the council decides what to do. And if they decide against us? Damien asked, his voice deadly quiet. Elder Marcus met his gaze steadily. Then ancient law demands the bond be severed by any means necessary. Luna's heart stopped. She'd heard whispers of what any means necessary meant. Usually, it meant death for the lower-ranked wolf, the one deemed unworthy of the bond. Over my dead body, Damien growled, and Luna felt the truth of it through their connection. He would die before he let anyone hurt her. But as Elder Marcus called for guards and the great hall erupted into chaos, Luna caught sight of Celeste's face. The Alpha's daughter wasn't just angry anymore, she was calculating. And Luna had the sinking feeling that dead bodies might be exactly what Celeste had in mind. The golden bond pulsed between them one more time before the guards stepped forward to separate them, and Luna knew with crystal clarity that her quiet life as an unnoticed Omega was over forever. The only question now was whether she'd live long enough to find out what came next. Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 2. The detention chamber beneath the pack house had been designed for rogues and criminals, not for an Omega who'd accidentally crashed a royal rejection ceremony. Luna sat on the narrow cot, her knees drawn up to her chest, trying to block out the chaos echoing from the floors above. Even through thick stone walls, she could hear the arguments, the raised voices, the sound of furniture being thrown. The Crescent Moon pack was tearing itself apart, and it was all her fault. Every few minutes, the golden bond would pulse, sending waves of Damien's emotions crashing through her, fury, protectiveness, and underneath it all, a longing so fierce it made her chest ache. She pressed her palms against her temples, trying to shut it out. Whatever connection had formed between them was getting stronger by the hour, and she had no idea how to control it. A key turned in the lock, and Luna looked up to see Elder Sarah entering with a tea tray. The elderly woman's face was kind but troubled, and she moved carefully, as if afraid Luna might bolt. I brought you something to eat, Sarah said softly, setting the tray on the small table. And some chamomile tea. It might help with the intensity of the bond. Nothing will help, Luna said quietly. This shouldn't exist. I'm nobody, Elder Sarah. I clean floors and tend gardens. I'm not meant to be bonded to the Alpha King. Sarah sat down across from her, studying Luna's face with the intensity of someone searching for something specific. Tell me about your dreams, child. My dreams? Luna frowned. What do they have to do with anything? Humor an old woman. Luna hesitated, then shrugged. What did it matter now? I dream about silver wolves. running through moonlight, voices calling my name. Sometimes there's a woman with silver hair who sings to me, but I can never understand the words. Sarah's breath caught. How long have you had these dreams? Always. For as long as I can remember. Luna picked at the bread on her tray, not really hungry. Why? But before Sarah could answer, heavy footsteps echoed in the corridor outside. The door burst open, and Elder Morgana swept in like an avenging angel, her black robes billowing behind her. Unlike Sarah's gentle presence, Morgana radiated cold authority that made Luna instinctively shrink back. Leave us, Morgana commanded Sarah. Morgana, she's just a girl. She's the cause of the greatest upheaval this pack has seen in decades. Morgana's pale eyes fixed on Luna like a predator studying prey. I said leave. Sarah rose reluctantly, giving Luna one last worried look before disappearing into the corridor. Morgana waited until her footsteps faded before speaking again. Do you know what you've done? She asked, her voice deadly quiet. I didn't mean to. Intent is irrelevant. The Alpha King is bonded to an Omega of unknown lineage during the most critical political negotiations in our territory's history. The Council is in emergency session. 3 other packs are threatening to withdraw their alliances. And Celeste Moonridge's father is talking about declaring this bonding an act of war. Luna's stomach clenched. War? The Moonridge pack has been planning this union for 5 years. It would unite the 2 largest territories on the East Coast under one rule. Now you've destroyed that with your accident. Morgana pulled out a leather portfolio and set it on the table with deliberate precision. So I've been tasked with finding out exactly who and what you are. I already told you, I don't know. Everyone knows something about their origins, Morgana cut her off. A lullaby, a scent, a fragment of memory. Think harder. Luna closed her eyes, trying to remember anything before the pack house, before being raised by the caretakers who'd found her. There was singing. A woman's voice. And silver light everywhere, like moonbeams made solid. Morgana's pen stopped moving across the paper. Silver light? Yes. And sometimes in the dreams, there are others. A man with dark hair who carries me, tells me I'm safe. A woman who calls me Little Moon. Luna opened her eyes to find Morgana staring at her with an expression she couldn't read. Why? Does that mean something? Instead of answering, Morgana opened the portfolio and pulled out a faded photograph. She placed it face down on the table, her fingers hesitating over it as if it might burn her. I've spent the last 4 hours in the archives, she said slowly. Going through records that haven't been touched in decades. Birth certificates, death records, pack registrations from across the continent. She flipped the photograph over. Tell me if you recognize anyone. Luna's breath stopped. The photograph showed a pack gathering, maybe 30 years old based on the clothing and image quality. But it was the woman in the center that made Luna's heart skip. She had silver hair that caught the light like spun moonbeams, kind eyes, and she was holding a baby with familiar dark curls. That's impossible, Luna whispered. The woman is Alpha Queen Isabella Silvermoon, Morgana said, her voice carefully controlled. And the child she's holding is her daughter, Luna Silvermoon, the lost heir of the Silvermoon pack. The room spun around her. Luna gripped the edge of the table, trying to process what she was hearing. The Silvermoon pack was destroyed. Everyone knows that. They were all killed. Not everyone. Morgana pulled out more documents, birth certificates, pack records, newspaper clippings with headlines about the massacre. 28 years ago, the Silver Moon pack was the most powerful bloodline in North America. They were the only pack that could challenge the Blackthorn dynasty for supremacy. Isabella Silvermoon was an Alpha Queen in her own right, not just a mate to an Alpha King. Luna stared at the photographs, her mind reeling. The woman in the pictures had her eyes, her bone structure, even the way she held her head. The attack came at night, Morgana continued relentlessly. Rogues, they claimed, though many suspected it was orchestrated by rival packs who feared Silver Moon's growing power. The pack house was burned, the adults slaughtered. But Isabella's daughter was never found. She was presumed dead, her body lost in the fire. But I'm not dead, Luna said weakly. No. You're very much alive. And according to these records, you're not just any lost princess, you're the last of the Silver Moon bloodline. The only surviving heir to a pack that once controlled half the Western territories. The implications crashed over Luna like a tidal wave. If this was true, if she really was Luna Silvermoon, then she wasn't an Omega at all. She was royalty. An Alpha Queen by birthright, equal in rank to Damien himself. The bond, she breathed. Makes perfect sense now, Morgana confirmed grimly. Alpha Kings can only form true mate bonds with their equals. It's why Damien has rejected so many potential mates. None of them were strong enough for a true connection. But you. She gestured to the documents spread across the table. You're exactly what his wolf has been searching for. Luna's hands shook as she picked up another photograph, this one showing her parents, Alpha King Marcus Silvermoon and his mate Isabella. They looked powerful, regal, completely different from the humble Omega caretakers who'd raised her. Why didn't anyone recognize me? She asked. You were barely a year old when the pack was destroyed. And Isabella was careful, she had contingency plans in place. When the attack began, she used magic to suppress your wolf, to make you appear as an Omega foundling. It was the only way to keep you safe. Magic to suppress her wolf. That explains so much, why her shifts had always felt wrong, why she'd never been able to access the strength other wolves took for granted, why she'd always felt like she was living in someone else's skin. But if that's true, Luna said slowly, if my heritage makes the bond legitimate, then why do you look like someone died? Morgana's smile was sharp as a blade. Because legitimate or not, you're still a threat to everything the current power structure has built. The Silver Moon pack was destroyed for a reason, they were too powerful, too independent. If word spreads that the lost heir has returned, bonded to the Alpha King himself, other packs will see it as a challenge, Luna finished. Or an opportunity. There are those who would rally behind the Silvermoon name, who would see your return as a chance to reshape the werewolf world. And there are others who would do anything to prevent that from happening. A chill ran down Luna's spine. Celeste. Among others. The Moonridge pack has spent 5 years positioning themselves as the next ruling dynasty. Your existence threatens everything they've worked for. Before Luna could respond, the sound of approaching footsteps echoed in the corridor. Morgana quickly gathered up the documents, her movements urgent. Not a word of this to anyone, she hissed. Until the council decides how to proceed, you're still just an unknown Omega. Do you understand? Luna nodded mutely, her mind still reeling from the revelations. Morgana swept out just as the door opened to admit 2 guards and Elder Sarah, who carried a basin of warm water and clean clothes. How are you feeling, dear? Sarah asked gently, though her eyes searched Luna's face with new intensity. Confused, Luna said honestly. Everything hurts. The bond keeps getting stronger, and I don't know how to control it. That's normal for new mate bonds, one of the guards said, not unkindly. The Alpha King is having the same problem upstairs. Had to post 6 wolves just to keep him from breaking down here to see you. Luna's heart clenched at the thought of Damien fighting their connection as desperately as she was. Through the bond, she could feel his frustration, his need to protect her warring with his duty to his pack. I brought some different clothes, Sarah said, setting down a simple gray dress. Something more comfortable than what you're wearing. Luna looked down at the emergency clothes that had materialized during her shift, a basic tunic and leggings that all wolves carried in their magic for unexpected transformations. They were rumpled and torn from her crash through the window. Thank you, she said softly. The guards stepped outside to give her privacy, but Sarah lingered, her expression troubled. Elder Sarah? Luna prompted. I've been thinking about what you said earlier. About the dreams. Sarah moved closer, lowering her voice. The woman with silver hair who sings to you, do you remember any of the words? Luna frowned, trying to recall the haunting melodies that had followed her through childhood. Sometimes. There's one phrase that repeats. Moonlight daughter, silver soul, find your strength and take control. Sarah's face went white. Dear goddess. What is it? But before Sarah could answer, a commotion erupted from somewhere above them. Shouting voices, the crash of furniture, and over it all, a sound that made every hair on Luna's body stand on end, Damien's howl of pure rage. The bond between them flared so suddenly and intensely that Luna doubled over, gasping. Through their connection, she felt his fury, his desperation, his overwhelming need to reach her. Something had happened. Something that had pushed the Alpha King past his legendary control. Sarah, what's going on? Luna demanded, but the older woman was already moving toward the door. Stay here, Sarah ordered. Don't leave this room, no matter what you hear. She disappeared into the corridor, leaving Luna alone with her racing thoughts and the terrible certainty that whatever was happening upstairs would change everything. The bond pulsed again, and this time Luna felt something else bleeding through, fear. Not for himself, but for her. Damien was afraid for her, which meant someone was planning something that threatened her safety. Celeste. It had to be. Luna paced the small room like a caged animal, every instinct screaming at her to run, to fight, to do something other than sit here helplessly while others decided her fate. The dress Sarah had brought lay forgotten on the cot as adrenaline coursed through her veins. Another pulse through the bond, stronger this time, and Luna felt something shift deep inside her chest. The magical suppressions that had kept her wolf contained for 27 years were weakening, cracking under the pressure of the mate bond and her rising emotions. She could feel her wolf stirring for the first time in her life, not the weak, confused creature she'd always known, but something powerful and ancient. Something that had been sleeping, waiting for the right moment to wake. The sound of approaching footsteps made her freeze. Multiple sets, moving with the quiet precision of trained fighters. These weren't guards coming to check on her, this was something else entirely. Luna backed toward the far wall, every nerve on high alert. The footsteps stopped outside her door, and she heard the soft scrape of a key in the lock. The door opened to reveal 3 figures in dark clothing, their faces hidden by hoods. The one in front stepped into the room, and Luna caught a glimpse of familiar blonde hair beneath the fabric. Hello, Luna, Celeste said softly, her voice dripping with false sweetness. We need to talk. I have nothing to say to you, Luna said, surprised by the steadiness in her own voice. Oh, but you do. Celeste pushed back her hood, revealing a face twisted with hatred. You have a great deal to say. Starting with why you think a worthless Omega has the right to steal what belongs to me. I didn't steal anything. Didn't you? Celeste stepped closer, and the 2 figures behind her moved to block the doorway. The Alpha King was mine. Our engagement was announced, our union blessed by both packs. And then you come crashing through a window like some pathetic stray and ruin everything. Luna lifted her chin, refusing to show fear even as her heart pounded. I didn't choose this bond any more than you did. If you want to blame someone, blame fate. Celeste's laugh was sharp and cruel. Fate? Is that what you're calling it? She pulled something from beneath her cloak, a silver blade that gleamed in the dim light. I call it an inconvenience that needs to be eliminated. The weapon wasn't just silver, Luna could smell the wolfsbane coating, could see the dark stains along the edge that spoke of previous use. This wasn't a ceremonial blade. This was a tool designed specifically for killing werewolves. You can't, Luna said, backing toward the far wall. The elders, the council, will thank me for solving their problem, Celeste cut her off. Do you really think they want to deal with the political nightmare you've created? It's much simpler if you just disappear. Luna's wolf stirred again, stronger this time. The magical suppressions were failing faster now, dissolving under the threat to her life. She could feel power building in her chest, something wild and primal that had never been allowed to surface. The bond will kill him if you kill me, she said desperately. True mate bonds can't be severed by death without killing both parties, Celeste finished. Yes, I know. It's unfortunate, but sacrifices must be made for the greater good. Luna's blood turned to ice. You're going to kill Damien too? Eventually. Once the initial shock wears off and he becomes manageable. Celeste raised the blade, and Luna saw madness gleaming in her eyes. Don't worry. I'll make sure he knows it was your fault before he dies. The words triggered something primal in Luna's chest. The last of the magical suppressions shattered like glass, and power flooded through her body like liquid fire. Her wolf surged upward, no longer the weak, confused creature she'd always known, but something magnificent and terrible. Silver light exploded outward from her body, so bright that Celeste and her companions staggered backward with cries of pain. Luna felt her bones shifting, her muscles expanding, her senses sharpening to supernatural levels. But this transformation was different from any she'd ever experienced. Instead of the usual brown wolf that emerged during her shifts, silver fur rippled across her body like liquid moonlight. She grew larger than she'd ever been, her frame expanding until she was nearly the size of an alpha male. When the light faded, a massive silver wolf stood where Luna had been moments before. Her coat gleamed like fresh snow, her eyes had turned the pale blue of winter ice, and power radiated from her in waves that made the stone walls of the chamber vibrate. Celeste dropped the blade, her face white with shock. Impossible. But Luna wasn't looking at her anymore. Her enhanced senses had picked up something else, a heartbeat in the shadows near the window, the scent of someone who didn't belong. Someone who'd been watching, waiting. A spy. Luna's lips pulled back from fangs longer and sharper than any Omega should possess, and she let out a howl that shook the very foundations of the pack house. It wasn't a sound of fear or submission, it was a declaration of war, the battle cry of a bloodline that had once ruled half the continent. The spy at the window fled, but Luna knew it was too late. Her secret was out. The lost princess of the Silver Moon pack had awakened, and there would be no hiding what she was anymore. Celeste and her companions scrambled for the door, but Luna was done being afraid. Power sang through her veins as she stalked toward them, every movement fluid and deadly. The real war was just beginning. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 3. The silver wolf that had once been Luna Sage stood in the ruins of her prison cell, power still crackling through her veins like electricity. Celeste and her accomplices had fled, but their scent lingered, fear mixed with rage and something else. Calculation. Whatever the Alpha's daughter was planning, Luna's transformation had only delayed it, not stopped it. Through the mate bond, she felt Damien's shock and awe as the news of her awakening reached him. His emotions hit her in waves, amazement, protective fury, and underneath it all, a deep recognition. His wolf had always known what she was, even when she hadn't. Luna shifted back to human form, her emergency clothes materializing around her trembling body. The transformation had left her drained but exhilarated. For the first time in her life, she felt complete, like pieces of herself that had been missing were finally clicking into place. The sound of running footsteps echoed through the corridors above. Multiple sets, moving fast. Luna pressed herself against the cell wall, listening. She could distinguish at least a dozen different heartbeats, all heading toward the detention level. The door burst open, and Damien charged in like an avenging angel, his eyes wild with concern. Behind him came a group of his most trusted warriors, including his beta, Marcus Stone, a massive man with graying temples and the coldest brown eyes Luna had ever seen. Luna. Damien crossed the room in 3 strides, pulling her against his chest. The moment they touched, the bond flared so intensely that several of the warriors stepped back with startled expressions. "I'm fine," she whispered, though she wasn't sure that was true. Everything had changed in the space of an hour. She wasn't just Luna the Omega anymore, she was Luna Silvermoon, lost princess of a destroyed bloodline, and apparently someone important enough for Celeste to want dead. "The hell you are." Damien's hands moved over her, checking for injuries. "When I felt your fear through the bond," he stopped abruptly, his nostrils flaring. Celeste was here. It wasn't a question. Luna nodded, not trusting her voice. And she threatened you. Another statement, this one delivered in a tone that promised violence. She had a silver blade coated with wolfsbane, Luna said quietly. She was going to kill us both. Marcus stepped forward, his expression skeptical. Alpha King, with respect, we only have her word that. Are you questioning my mate? Damien's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper, and every wolf in the room went rigid. Alpha power filled the air like a physical presence. I'm questioning the timing, Marcus said carefully. A mysterious Omega appears out of nowhere, bonds with you during the most important political negotiations in decades, and now claims the Alpha's daughter tried to murder her. It's convenient. Luna felt Damien's rage spike through their connection, but she placed a hand on his arm. He's not wrong to be suspicious, she said quietly. If I were him, I'd question it too. Marcus's eyebrows rose slightly, as if he hadn't expected her to be reasonable. But I'm not lying, Luna continued, meeting his gaze steadily. Celeste was here with 2 others. They came to eliminate what they saw as a problem. When my wolf awakened. She trailed off, still not quite believing what had happened. Your wolf awakened? Elder Sarah appeared in the doorway, slightly out of breath. Luna, that's impossible. The magical suppressions should have. They broke, Luna said simply. When Celeste threatened to kill Damien, something inside me snapped. All the barriers just shattered. Sarah's face went white. Show me. Luna hesitated, aware that every eye in the room was on her. Then she closed her eyes and called to her wolf. The transformation came easier this time, silver light blooming around her as her body shifted and expanded. When she opened her eyes, she was looking down at the assembled wolves from her new height. Even in wolf form, she was nearly as large as Damien would be, her silver coat gleaming like moonlight on water. The silence in the room was deafening. Dear goddess, Sarah breathed. It's true. You really are. A silvermoon, Marcus finished grimly. The lost princess. Luna shifted back to human form, swaying slightly from the effort. Damien caught her immediately, steadying her against his chest. This changes everything, Marcus continued, his tone carefully neutral. If word gets out that the Silvermoon heir has returned. It already has, Damien cut him off. Someone was watching when she transformed. I can smell them. Luna nodded. There was a spy at the window. They fled when I howled. Marcus ran a hand through his graying hair. Then we have maybe an hour before every pack on the continent knows. The political ramifications are not our primary concern right now, Damien said sharply. Luna's safety is. Alpha King, I understand your attachment, Marcus said carefully. But we have to consider the pack's welfare. The Silvermoon bloodline was destroyed for a reason. They were seen as a threat to stability. They were murdered, Luna interrupted quietly. My parents, my pack, everyone I should have grown up with. They were slaughtered by rogues, or maybe by other packs who feared their power. Is that the stability you're talking about? Marcus's jaw tightened. I'm talking about the fact that your very existence threatens the balance of power that's kept the werewolf world from tearing itself apart for 3 decades. Enough. Damien's voice cracked like a whip. Luna is my mate. She's under my protection, and anyone who wants to harm her will have to go through me first. Even if protecting her destroys everything you've built? Marcus challenged. Even if it means war with the Moonridge pack? With half the continent? Even then. The absolute certainty in Damien's voice sent shivers down Luna's spine. Through their bond, she could feel his resolve, unshakable and fierce. He meant it. He would burn the world down before he let anyone hurt her. Then we need to get her out of here, Marcus said after a long pause. Somewhere safe while we figure out our next move. No. The voice came from the doorway, where Elder Morgana stood with several council members behind her. She's not going anywhere. Damien stepped protectively in front of Luna. Elder Morgana. The council has reached a decision, Morgana announced, her voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. Luna Silvermoon will undergo the trial of truth to verify her lineage. If she passes, she will be recognized as a legitimate Alpha Queen and her bond with the Alpha King will be officially sanctioned. And if she fails? Damien asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. If she fails, or if she refuses to undergo the trial, she will be declared rogue and banished from all pack territories. Morgana's pale eyes fixed on Luna. The trial begins at dawn. Luna felt the blood drain from her face. The trial of truth was legendary among werewolves, a brutal test of bloodline, character, and power that many didn't survive. It hadn't been used in over 50 years. You can't be serious, Damien snarled. She just learned what she is. She hasn't had time to. Time is a luxury we don't have, Morgana cut him off. Word is already spreading. By sunrise, half the continent will know the Silvermoon heir has returned. We need official verification before chaos erupts. And what happens if she doesn't survive your trial? The dangerous quiet in Damien's voice made several council members step back. Then the problem resolves itself, Morgana said coldly. Damien's power exploded outward, raw alpha dominance that sent every wolf in the room to their knees except Luna. She remained standing, her own newfound power rising to match his, silver light dancing around her fingers. You will not use my mate as a political pawn, Damien said, his voice barely human. She already is one, Morgana replied, unfazed by his display. The moment she bonded with you, she became the most dangerous piece on the board. The trial is her only chance for legitimacy. Luna stepped forward, placing herself between Damien and the council. I'll do it. Luna, no. I have to, she said quietly, looking back at him. You know I do. If I don't prove myself legitimate, Celeste will never stop hunting us. None of them will. Damien's hands clenched into fists, but he didn't argue. Through their bond, she could feel his fear for her warring with his knowledge that she was right. The trial will take place at the Sacred Grove, Morgana announced. Dawn to dusk. If you survive until sunset, you will be declared legitimate. And if she doesn't? Marcus asked grimly. Then the mate bond dies with her, Morgana said simply. Luna felt Damien's pain spike through their connection, sharp and overwhelming. She reached for his hand, squeezing tightly. I won't let that happen, she whispered. But even as she said it, she could see the doubt in his eyes. The trial of truth was designed to break pretenders, to expose false claimants through increasingly dangerous tests. Many who attempted it were never seen again. You have until dawn to prepare, Morgana said, turning to leave. I suggest you use the time wisely. As the council members filed out, Luna found herself alone with Damien, Marcus, and Elder Sarah. The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken fears. There has to be another way, Damien said finally. Marcus shook his head. Not if we want to avoid a war. Too many packs have too much invested in the current power structure. If Luna can't prove her legitimacy, then they'll unite against us, Damien finished grimly. What exactly does the trial involve? Luna asked Sarah, who had remained unusually quiet. Sarah's face was troubled. It's different for each bloodline. The Sacred Grove responds to the claimant's heritage, creating tests specific to their family line. She paused. For the Silvermoons, it was always about sacrifice and protection. Your ancestors were known for putting others before themselves, even unto death. A chill ran down Luna's spine. Meaning? Meaning the trial will test your willingness to die for others, Marcus said bluntly. And not just symbolically. Before anyone could respond, a commotion erupted from the main hall above. Shouting voices, running footsteps, and over it all, the sound of children screaming. Damien was moving before the last echo faded, taking the stairs 3 at a time with Luna close behind. They burst into the main hall to find chaos, overturned furniture, shattered windows, and the scent of rogues thick in the air. Report. Damien barked to the nearest warrior. Rogue attack on the eastern border, the man gasped. They broke through the perimeter. Got to the school before we could stop them. Luna's heart stopped. The pack school was where the youngest children learned basic skills and socialization. If rogues had reached it. How many children? She asked. 12, the warrior said grimly. Ages 5 to 10. The rogues have them holed up in the old oak grove. Casualties? 3 teachers dead, 2 more wounded. The rogues are demanding safe passage off pack lands in exchange for the children. Damien's jaw tightened. How many rogues? At least 8, maybe more. They're led by someone called Blackfang. Apparently he's been gathering followers, telling them the Silvermoon heir has returned and they can claim her power if they kill her. Luna felt the blood drain from her face. Her awakening hadn't just put her in danger, it had put innocent children at risk too. We go in fast and hard, Damien decided. Full assault, no negotiations. Wait. Luna caught his arm. They want me, right? The rogues? Absolutely not, Damien said before she could finish the thought. They have children, Luna pressed. If I can draw them away from the school. You'll get yourself killed, Marcus interrupted. And the children will still be in danger. Luna closed her eyes, reaching out with her newly awakened senses. She could feel the rogues like dark stains on the pack territory, their hunger and violence radiating outward. But she could also sense something else, 12 small, terrified heartbeats huddled together in the grove. I can get to them, she said quietly. My silver wolf form, I'm fast enough to reach the children before the rogues can react. It's suicide, Sarah protested. It's the only way to save them without a bloodbath, Luna countered. She looked at Damien, seeing her own desperate determination reflected in his eyes. You know I'm right. Damien was quiet for a long moment, emotions warring across his face. Finally, he nodded grimly. We do it together. You get the children out, I handle the rogues. Damien. Together, he repeated firmly. Or not at all. Luna nodded, knowing there was no point in arguing. Through their bond, she could feel his absolute refusal to let her face danger alone. 20 minutes later, they were crouched at the edge of the oak grove, studying the scene ahead. The rogues had arranged themselves in a loose circle around the ancient tree where the children cowered. Luna could see their small faces, streaked with tears and terror. On my signal, Damien whispered. You go left, I'll take the right flank. Luna nodded, calling to her wolf. Silver light bloomed around her as she transformed, her enhanced senses immediately cataloging every scent, every sound, every potential threat. Now. She burst from the underbrush like liquid lightning, her silver form streaking toward the tree at impossible speed. The rogues barely had time to react before she was among them, using her newfound size and strength to scatter them like leaves. She reached the children just as Damien's howl split the night, calling the rest of the pack warriors to battle. The rogues found themselves surrounded, outnumbered, and facing an alpha king in full fury. Stay close to me, Luna told the children, shifting back to human form but keeping her power ready. I'm going to get you out of here. You're the silver wolf, one of the older children breathed, eyes wide with awe rather than fear. The one from the stories. I'm Luna, she said simply, gathering the smallest ones into her arms. And I'm going to keep you safe. The battle raged around them as she herded the children toward the pack territory, using her body to shield them from the violence. Several of the rogues tried to intercept them, but Luna's awakened power made her stronger than they'd expected. She fought with desperate efficiency, every move calculated to protect the innocent lives depending on her. By the time they reached safety, the last of the rogues had fallen. Damien appeared at her side, blood on his clothes but uninjured, just as the children's parents arrived to reclaim them. You saved them, Marcus said quietly, watching as grateful families reunited. All of them. Luna nodded, exhaustion finally hitting her. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving her drained and shaky. The pack will remember this, Marcus continued, and there was something different in his tone. Respect, maybe. Or at least the beginning of it. But before Luna could respond, Elder Morgana appeared from the shadows, her face grim. We need to talk, she said urgently. All of us. There's something about the mate bond you need to know. They gathered in Damien's private study, the fire casting dancing shadows on the walls. Morgana closed the door and activated a privacy ward before speaking. The bond between you isn't natural, she said without preamble. It's a curse. Luna felt Damien go rigid beside her. What do you mean, a curse? The royal bloodlines, Blackthorn, Silvermoon, and 3 others, were cursed centuries ago during the Blood Wars. Any true mate bond formed between members of these families becomes a weapon. Morgana's voice was heavy with old knowledge. The stronger the bond grows, the more it drains both parties. Eventually, it will kill you both. How long do we have? Damien asked, his voice carefully controlled. The next full moon. 7 days. Morgana looked between them with something that might have been pity. Unless one of you dies first, severing the connection before it reaches critical strength. The silence that followed was deafening. Luna felt Damien's anguish through their bond, sharp and devastating. There has to be a way to break it, Luna whispered. Only one, Morgana said grimly. The death of one mate severs the curse without killing the other. But it has to be willing sacrifice, freely given. Luna's blood turned to ice as the implications sank in. She or Damien would have to choose to die to save the other. From somewhere in the shadows near the window came the soft sound of breathing, someone listening, learning secrets that could destroy them all. Celeste had heard everything. And Luna knew with crystal clarity that the Alpha's daughter had just found the perfect weapon to destroy them both. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 4. The fire in Damien's study had burned low, casting long shadows across the room where Luna sat curled against his side. 3 days had passed since Elder Morgana's devastating revelation about the curse, and Luna could feel the bond between them growing stronger with each hour, a beautiful, deadly countdown to their destruction. Through their connection, she sensed Damien's restless energy, the way his mind worked through problem after problem, searching for a solution that didn't exist. He'd barely slept since learning about the curse, spending his time researching ancient texts and consulting with elders from other packs. All for nothing. There has to be another way, Luna whispered, breaking the silence that had stretched between them for the past hour. Damien's arms tightened around her. I've contacted every expert on royal bloodline curses in North America. They all say the same thing, willing sacrifice is the only way to break it. Luna felt his resolve through their bond, solid and unshakable. He'd already made his choice, even if he hadn't told her yet. The knowledge sat heavy in her chest like a physical weight. I know what you're thinking, she said quietly. And the answer is no. Luna. No. She pulled away to face him, seeing her own desperation reflected in his storm-gray eyes. I won't let you sacrifice yourself for me. I'd rather die than live without you. And I'd rather die than be the reason you never get to experience the life you were meant to have. His hand cupped her cheek, thumb brushing away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. You're the lost princess of the Silvermoon bloodline. You're meant for great things, not to be destroyed by a curse before you've even begun to understand your power. Luna leaned into his touch, memorizing the warmth of his skin, the way his eyes softened when he looked at her. In 4 days, when the full moon rose, one of them would be dead. The thought made her feel hollow inside, like all the light had been drained from the world. A soft knock at the study door interrupted her spiraling thoughts. Enter, Damien called, his voice carefully controlled. Marcus stepped inside, his expression troubled. Over the past few days, the beta had grown increasingly conflicted about the situation. Luna could see the war playing out on his face, loyalty to his alpha warring with what he believed was best for the pack. Alpha King, Marcus said formally. I need to speak with you. Privately. Luna started to rise, but Damien caught her hand. Anything you have to say to me, you can say in front of my mate. Marcus's jaw tightened. It's about the curse. I've been thinking. If you're about to suggest I let Luna sacrifice herself, save your breath, Damien cut him off coldly. Actually, I was going to suggest we consult with Alpha Kronos, Marcus said carefully. He's one of the oldest alphas on the continent. If anyone knows about ancient curses, it would be him. Luna felt Damien's suspicion spike through their bond. Alpha Kronos was Celeste's father, and after the attack in the detention cells, trusting the Moonridge Pack with anything seemed like madness. Absolutely not, Damien said. Kronos would use our vulnerability against us. Would he? Marcus challenged. His daughter's engagement to you is broken either way, whether you die from the curse or live as Luna's mate. He has nothing to gain by lying to us now. He has everything to gain, Luna interjected quietly. If we both die, the Moonridge Pack becomes the most powerful bloodline on the continent. They've been positioning themselves for this for years. Marcus turned to her, and she saw something flicker in his brown eyes. Something that made her skin crawl. You're assuming Kronos wants power, he said. But what if he wants stability? What if he's willing to help break the curse to prevent a war? Since when do you care about preventing war? Damien asked, his tone sharp with suspicion. Marcus straightened, meeting his alpha's gaze steadily. Since I realized that your death would tear this pack apart. Since I understood that losing you would be a catastrophe none of us would recover from. The words rang with sincerity, but something about Marcus's scent was off. Luna's enhanced senses picked up the subtle tang of deception, carefully masked but definitely there. I think you should go, she said quietly. Both men turned to look at her. Marcus's expression was surprised, but Damien's was knowing. Through their bond, she could feel that he'd sensed the same wrongness she had. Luna's right, Damien said, his voice deadly quiet. I think it's time for you to leave, Marcus. Alpha King, I'm only trying to leave. Now. Marcus's face darkened, but he bowed formally and headed for the door. Just before he reached it, he paused and looked back. For what it's worth, he said, I really did want to save you. The door closed behind him with a soft click, leaving Luna and Damien alone with their growing sense of dread. He's going to betray us, Luna said, certainty settling in her chest like ice. I know. Damien was already moving toward his weapons cabinet, pulling out silver blades and loading wolfsbane darts. The question is how and when. Luna rose and began pacing, her mind racing. He mentioned Alpha Kronos. What if he's already been in contact with them? Then we need to move tonight, Damien said grimly. Before whatever he's planning comes to fruition. Move where? We can't run from a curse, Damien. It'll follow us anywhere. Damien stopped loading weapons and looked at her, something shifting in his expression. Maybe we can't run from it. But we can face it on our terms. What do you mean? The curse requires willing sacrifice, right? It has to be freely given. He set down the weapons and moved toward her. What if we force the choice? What if I sacrifice myself before the full moon, breaking the bond before it can kill us both? Luna felt the world tilt around her. No. Absolutely not. Luna, listen to me. I said no. Power flared around her, silver light dancing across her skin. I won't let you die for me. I can't. And I can't let you die for me, Damien said softly. So we're at an impasse. Before Luna could respond, the lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in a second later, bathing the study in harsh red glow. Through the windows, Luna could see that the entire packhouse had gone dark. Trap, Damien said grimly, drawing his silver blade. Luna called to her wolf, feeling the familiar surge of power as silver light bloomed around her. But before she could complete the transformation, the study door burst open and figures in black combat gear poured in. Not rogues this time. These moved with military precision, their gear and weapons marking them as professional soldiers. At their head came Celeste, her blonde hair pulled back in a severe bun, her eyes bright with triumph. "Hello, darling," she said to Damien, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Miss me?" Damien stepped protectively in front of Luna, his blade catching the emergency lighting. "If you think I'm going to let you." "Oh, but you are," Celeste interrupted. She raised her hand, and Luna saw she was holding a small silver device. "Because if you don't cooperate, my father's forces will slaughter every child in the pack house. Starting with the ones you saved from the rogues." Luna felt Damien's rage spike through their bond, raw and overwhelming. "You're bluffing." Celeste smiled and pressed a button on the device. Immediately, the sound of children screaming echoed through the pack house's emergency communication system. "Am I?" she asked sweetly. Luna's heart stopped. Through the bond, she could feel Damien's anguish, his impossible choice between protecting her and protecting innocent lives. "What do you want?" he asked through gritted teeth. "Simple. You come with us quietly, and the children live." Celeste's smile widened. "We're going to solve your little curse problem once and for all." "By killing me," Damien said flatly. "By killing you both, actually. But don't worry, it'll be quick." Luna stepped forward, power crackling around her. "You'll have to go through me first." "Oh, I was hoping you'd say that." Celeste raised her other hand, revealing a weapon Luna had never seen before, a crystalline blade that pulsed with dark energy. "Do you know what this is, little princess?" Luna's blood turned to ice as recognition hit her. She'd seen drawings of it in the ancient texts she'd been studying. "A soul blade." "Very good. Forged specifically for killing royal bloodlines. One cut, and your precious bond will be severed permanently, along with both your lives." "Where did you get that?" Damien demanded. "Those weapons were destroyed centuries ago." "Were they?" Celeste's laugh was cold and cruel. "You'd be surprised what people keep hidden away for special occasions." Luna felt something else through her enhanced senses, another presence in the building. Someone powerful, someone whose scent she recognized but couldn't quite place. "Enough games," the figure said, stepping out of the shadows. Elder Morgana emerged from behind Celeste's soldiers, her black robes rustling around her like raven wings. But something was different about her. The carefully controlled demeanor was gone, replaced by something cold and calculating. "Morgana?" Damien's confusion bled through their bond. "What are you doing here?" "Cleaning up a mess that should have been dealt with 28 years ago," she said calmly. She gestured to the soldiers, and they moved to surround Damien and Luna. "You see, the curse I told you about? It's not real." Luna felt the world shift around her. "What?" "Oh, the royal bloodlines were cursed, that's true enough. But not with death bonds. They were cursed with power, the ability to unite all packs under a single rule. The ability to bring peace to our chaotic world." Morgana's smile was sharp as a blade. "Some of us found that prospect unacceptable." "You lied to us," Damien said, his voice deadly quiet. "I did what was necessary to maintain the balance of power. Just as I did 28 years ago when I helped orchestrate the massacre of the Silver Moon Pack." Luna's world exploded into fragments. Through the roar of blood in her ears, she heard Morgana continue speaking, but the words seemed to come from very far away. Isabella Silvermoon was getting too powerful, gathering too many allies. She had to be stopped before she could unite the bloodlines. So I provided intelligence to the rogues who attacked her pack, made sure they knew exactly when and where to strike. "You murdered my parents," Luna whispered, power building around her like a storm. "I did what had to be done for the greater good," Morgana said coldly. "Just as I'm doing now." Luna felt something snap inside her chest, like chains that had held her power in check finally breaking. Silver light exploded outward from her body, so bright and intense that several of the soldiers staggered backward with cries of pain. When the light faded, Luna was no longer the woman she'd been moments before. Power radiated from her in waves that made the air itself shimmer. Her eyes had turned pure silver, and when she spoke, her voice carried the authority of generations of Alpha Queens. "You made a mistake," she said, and every wolf in the room felt the compulsion to submit. "You killed my family. You lied to us. You put innocent children in danger." She took a step forward, and the floor cracked beneath her feet. "Now you're going to pay." Morgana's mask of control finally slipped, revealing the fear beneath. "Kill them," she shouted to the soldiers. "Kill them both, now." The soldiers raised their weapons, but Luna was faster. She moved like liquid lightning, her partially shifted form allowing her to retain human intelligence while accessing her wolf's speed and strength. Silver light trailed behind her as she tore through the armed men like they were made of paper. Celeste raised the soul blade, aiming for Damien's heart, but Luna intercepted her. The two women crashed into the far wall in a tangle of claws and fury, the crystalline weapon skittering across the floor. "You killed my parents' friends," Luna snarled, her canines extended. "You tried to murder children. You would have destroyed the man I love. He was never yours." Celeste spat back, raking her claws across Luna's face. "You're nothing but a pretender, an Omega playing at being royalty." Luna's power flared again, and this time it was different, not just the silver light of the Silvermoon bloodline, but something deeper. Something ancient and primal that spoke of unity, of bringing scattered wolves together under one strong leader. "I'm not just royal," she said, understanding flooding through her. "I'm the prophesied Silver Alpha. The one who was supposed to unite all packs in peace." The revelation hit her like a physical blow. This was why Morgana had wanted her family dead, not just because they were powerful, but because Luna was destined to reshape their world entirely. Celeste's eyes widened with terror. "Impossible." But before Luna could respond, Morgana's voice cut through the chaos. "Even prophecies can be ended." Luna spun to see the elder raising a weapon of her own, not a blade, but a staff carved with ancient runes. Dark energy swirled around its tip, and Luna recognized it with growing horror. "A bloodline killer," she breathed. "The only weapon that can permanently destroy a royal line," Morgana confirmed. "I've been saving it for a special occasion." The staff discharged its energy in a beam of pure darkness, aimed directly at Damien. Luna didn't think, she simply moved, throwing herself between the weapon and the man she loved. The dark energy struck her full in the chest, and pain unlike anything she'd ever experienced tore through her body. She felt her life force draining away, her newly awakened powers flickering like a candle in a hurricane. But even as she fell, Luna reached out with the last of her strength and grabbed Morgana's staff. Silver light met dark energy in an explosion that shook the entire packhouse, and for a moment, Luna felt connected to every wolf in the territory, their fears, their hopes, their desperate desire for peace. "Tell them," she gasped to Damien as her vision began to fade. "Tell them what she did. Make sure they know the truth." "Luna, no," Damien caught her as she collapsed, his hands coming away stained with silver blood. Through their bond, she felt his anguish, his desperate love, his refusal to let her go. But the bloodline killer had done its work too well. She could feel her life slipping away like water through her fingers. The last thing she saw before darkness claimed her was Morgana's staff cracking down the middle, its dark power finally spent. The elder stared at the broken weapon in shock, then at Luna's still form. "It's done," Morgana whispered. "The prophecy is ended." But as Luna's heart beat its last rhythm, a pulse of silver light spread outward from her body, not the light of death, but of transformation. Every wolf it touched felt the change, felt the call of unity that had been her birthright. The Silver Alpha was gone, but her legacy had only just begun. And in the sudden silence that followed, Damien's howl of grief and rage echoed through the night like a promise of vengeance yet to come. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 5. The silence that followed Luna's collapse was absolute, as if the entire world had stopped breathing. Damien knelt beside her still form, his hands trembling as he searched for a pulse that wasn't there. Through their bond, or what remained of it, he felt nothing but emptiness, a void where her vibrant presence had been moments before. "No," he whispered, pulling her against his chest. "No, you don't get to leave me like this." Silver blood stained his clothes, but her face was peaceful, almost serene. The power that had blazed around her like a living thing was gone, leaving behind only the shell of the woman he'd loved with everything in him. The mate bond snapped. The psychic backlash hit Damien like a physical blow, driving him to his knees. He'd heard that losing a true mate was agony beyond description, but nothing had prepared him for the reality of it, the sudden, devastating loneliness that felt like having half his soul ripped away. Around them, the surviving soldiers and pack members stood frozen in shock. Celeste had backed against the far wall, her face white with terror as she stared at Luna's motionless body. Even Morgana seemed shaken, clutching the broken remains of her staff with trembling hands. "She's gone," Marcus whispered from the doorway, and Damien heard genuine grief in his beta's voice. "Dear goddess, what have we done?" "What you intended," Damien said, his voice hollow as he gathered Luna closer. "You wanted to save me from the cursed bond. Congratulations, you succeeded." Marcus flinched as if struck. "Alpha King, I never wanted." "Get out." The words came out barely above a whisper, but they carried the weight of absolute command. "All of you, get out." The room began to empty, but Morgana lingered, her pale eyes fixed on Luna with an expression Damien couldn't read. "The bloodline killer worked," she said quietly. "The royal line ends with her. Is that supposed to comfort me?" Damien's voice was raw with grief and rage. "It's supposed to bring stability back to our world," Morgana replied. "Now the packs can return to the natural order." "The natural order?" Damien looked up at her, and she took an involuntary step backward at the fury in his storm-gray eyes. "You murdered a family to preserve your precious status quo. You lied about a curse to manipulate us. You killed an innocent woman who was trying to save children." His voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. "If you think any of that will be forgotten or forgiven, you're more deluded than I thought." Morgana's composure finally cracked. "You don't understand the forces that were at play here. The Silver Alpha prophecy would have torn our world apart. She would have brought peace," Damien cut her off. "And you destroyed it because you were too afraid to lose your power. I did what was necessary." "You did what was selfish," a new voice said from the doorway. Elder Sarah entered the room, her kind face etched with grief and fury. Behind her came several other council members, their expressions grim. "Elder Sarah," Morgana began, but Sarah held up a hand to silence her. 30 years, Sarah said quietly, moving to kneel beside Luna's body. 30 years I've watched you manipulate pack politics, always claiming it was for the greater good. I suspected you had something to do with the Silver Moon massacre, but I never had proof. You still don't. Don't I?" Sarah's voice was steel. "You just confessed in front of a dozen witnesses. You admitted to orchestrating the deaths of an entire pack, including innocent children. You lied about a mate bond curse. You used a bloodline killer weapon." She stood slowly, her eyes blazing with righteous anger. "That's more than enough to strip you of your position and try you for crimes against the werewolf nation." Morgana looked around the room, perhaps only now realizing how completely she'd isolated herself. The other council members were watching her with disgust and betrayal, and even Celeste seemed to be edging away from her. "The council will hear my explanation." "The council has heard enough," Elder Marcus, not Beta Marcus, but the ancient council leader, said as he entered the room. His weathered face was dark with fury. "Guards, arrest Elder Morgana for murder, conspiracy, and treason against the royal bloodlines." As pack warriors moved to restrain her, Morgana's mask finally slipped completely. "You fools," she snarled, struggling against the guards. "You have no idea what you're unleashing. The Silver Alpha prophecy speaks of more than just werewolf unity, it speaks of war with the vampires. That's why the bloodlines had to be stopped." The room went dead silent. Every supernatural creature knew the stories of the ancient wars between werewolves and vampires, the battles that had driven both species into hiding from the human world. The vampires have been waiting, Morgana continued desperately. Waiting for the royal bloodlines to return, for a silver alpha to rise. They know that unified werewolf packs would be strong enough to challenge their dominion. That's why I had to. That's why you had to murder innocent families? Sarah asked coldly. To serve your vampire masters? I serve no one but the preservation of our species. Morgana spat. Better to remain divided and safe than united and extinct. Enough, Damien said quietly, but his voice carried absolute authority. Take her away. She can explain her choices to the council in a proper trial. As the guards dragged Morgana from the room, she turned back one last time. You think you've won? This is just the beginning. They're coming, Alpha King. They've always been coming. And now you have no silver alpha to protect you. The door slammed shut behind her, leaving the room in heavy silence. Damien looked down at Luna's peaceful face, brushing a strand of dark hair from her cheek. Maybe she was right, he said quietly. Maybe Luna was our only hope against whatever's coming. Don't, Sarah said firmly, moving closer. Don't let that woman's poison infect your grief. Luna saved us all by exposing the truth. What truth? That we're defenseless against an ancient enemy that wants us dead? That love and sacrifice are more powerful than fear and manipulation, Sarah replied. Luna proved that tonight. Before Damien could respond, something changed in the air around them. The temperature dropped, and a subtle vibration seemed to run through the packhouse's foundation. The emergency lights flickered, then steadied. Do you feel that? One of the council members whispered. Damien did feel it, a stirring in the very fabric of the supernatural world, as if something long dormant was beginning to wake. The sensation was centered on Luna's body, growing stronger with each passing second. Everyone out, he said urgently. Now. Alpha King. Now. The command brooked no argument, and the room cleared quickly, leaving Damien alone with Luna. The moment they were gone, silver light began to bloom around her body, not the harsh brightness of her awakened power, but something softer, more profound. It pulsed in rhythm with a heartbeat that shouldn't exist, growing brighter with each passing moment. Damien watched in amazement as the light began to heal the wounds the bloodline killer had inflicted. The gaping hole in her chest closed, the silver blood faded from her skin, and color slowly returned to her cheeks. Her eyes snapped open, glowing pure silver. Hello, my love, she said softly, and her voice carried harmonics that hadn't been there before, the echo of ancient power, of prophecy fulfilled. Damien's breath caught. Luna? But you were, the bond broke. The old bond broke, she agreed, sitting up with fluid grace. But I'm not the same person who died protecting you. As she spoke, silver light danced across her skin in patterns that looked almost like writing, symbols of power that had been lost for centuries. When she stood, she moved with the unconscious authority of someone born to rule, and Damien found himself fighting the urge to submit to her dominance. You're the silver alpha, he breathed. I am. She looked at her hands, watching silver fire dance between her fingers. The bloodline killer didn't destroy me, it completed my transformation. Sometimes prophecy requires death and rebirth. A new bond snapped into place between them, but this was different from what they'd shared before. Stronger, more complex, it carried the weight of destiny and the promise of shared power. I can feel everything, Luna continued, closing her eyes and extending her senses. Every wolf in the territory, their fears and hopes and desperate need for peace. The vampire covens gathering in the eastern mountains. The other packs already mobilizing, some to challenge us, others to bow to the return of the royal bloodline. She opened her eyes and looked directly at him. And I can feel our child. Damien's world tilted. Our what? Luna's hand moved to her flat stomach, wonder filling her face. It shouldn't be possible. Transformation magic should prevent pregnancy, but... She smiled, and it was radiant. the first heir born to 2 alpha bloodlines in over 300 years. A child destined to bridge the gap between old power and new. Before Damien could process this revelation fully, urgent knocking echoed through the study door. Alpha King. Beta Marcus's voice was strained with barely controlled panic. You need to see this. Luna waved her hand, and the door opened without anyone touching it. Marcus stumbled inside, took one look at her upright and glowing with power, and dropped to one knee. Forgive me, he said, his voice thick with shame. I betrayed you both. I believed I was saving you from a curse, but I nearly got you killed instead. Luna studied him for a long moment, and Damien could feel her reading Marcus through their new bond, seeing his genuine remorse, his fear for the pack's future, his desperate desire to make amends. You acted out of loyalty to your alpha, she said finally. Misguided loyalty, but loyalty nonetheless. The question is whether you can transfer that loyalty to your alpha queen. Marcus raised his head, and Damien saw tears on the older man's cheeks. Command me, and I will obey. Then tell us why you're here. The pack has gathered in the Great Hall, Marcus said, rising to his feet but keeping his eyes respectfully lowered. Word has spread about what happened, about Elder Morgana's betrayal, about your death and resurrection. They want to see you both. Luna nodded, then looked at Damien. Are you ready to face our pack as a united front? Are you ready to be their queen? He countered. Her smile was answer enough. They walked to the Great Hall together, power radiating from both of them in waves that made every wolf they passed stop and stare. When they entered the massive room, over 300 pack members were waiting, their faces showing a mixture of awe, fear, and desperate hope. The moment Luna crossed the threshold, every wolf in the room felt the compulsion to submit. One by one, they dropped to their knees, not in defeat, but in recognition of the power that had returned to their world. Rise, Luna said, her voice carrying to every corner of the hall. You bow to no one but your own choice. Slowly, the pack members got to their feet, but the reverence in their eyes remained. Many of you have questions, Luna continued, moving to stand before the great fireplace where ancient portraits of past alphas watched over the proceedings. You want to know what happened tonight, what it means for our future. The truth is both simpler and more complex than you might imagine. She gestured, and silver light formed images in the air above them. Scenes from the night's battle, Morgana's confession, the revelation about the vampire threat. For 30 years, you've lived under a lie, Luna said as the images played out. Elder Morgana orchestrated the destruction of the Silver Moon Pack to prevent the rise of a Silver Alpha. She believed that keeping werewolves divided and weak was preferable to facing the challenges that unity would bring. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, but Luna continued without pause. She was wrong. Unity is not our weakness, it's our strength. The vampire covens that once drove our kind into hiding are gathering again, sensing that the royal bloodlines have returned. They believe we'll be easy prey, just as we were centuries ago. The murmurs turned to growls, and Damien felt the pack's rising anger through his alpha connection. They're wrong, Luna said simply, and her power flared outward, touching every wolf in the room. We are not the scattered, frightened packs of the past. We are not defenseless prey. We are wolves, and it's time we remembered what that means. The great hall erupted in howls of agreement, the sound shaking the ancient stones. As the noise died down, the doors burst open and Celeste stumbled in, her hands bound with silver restraints. The guards escorting her brought her before Luna and Damien, forcing her to her knees. Celeste Moonridge, Luna said, her voice carrying the weight of absolute judgment. You stand accused of attempted murder, conspiracy against the royal bloodlines, and endangering innocent children. How do you answer these charges? Celeste raised her head, defiance still burning in her eyes despite her defeat. I did what I had to do to protect my pack's interests. You nearly killed children to force our cooperation, Damien said coldly. You would have murdered innocent lives to satisfy your ambition. And what about your ambition? Celeste shot back. You think you can unite all packs under your rule? You think the other alphas will simply bow to your claimed queen? They won't have to simply bow, Luna said quietly. They'll choose to join us because they'll see the alternative. As if summoned by her words, a commotion arose outside the hall. Through the tall windows, Damien could see lights approaching across the pack territory, dozens of them, moving in organized formations. The other packs, Marcus breathed. They're here. Luna moved to the window, her enhanced senses reading the approaching forces. 7 packs from the eastern territories. 3 from the west. And... She paused, her expression growing troubled. Something else. Something that doesn't smell entirely like wolf. Damien joined her at the window, extending his own senses. What he found made his blood run cold. Vampire, he said grimly. Luna nodded. They're not just coming to challenge or bow to us. They're coming because they know what I am, what this means for the supernatural world. She turned back to the assembled pack, her voice carrying clearly to every corner of the hall. The war Morgana tried to prevent has begun anyway. The question is whether we face it divided and weak, or united and strong. One by one, pack members began to step forward, declaring their loyalty to their new Alpha Queen. Young wolves, old wolves, warriors and healers alike, all choosing to stand with Luna and Damien against whatever was coming. Even some of the council members who had arrived joined the declaration, their voices adding to the growing chorus of unity. What about her? Sarah asked, gesturing to Celeste. Luna studied the kneeling woman for a long moment. Celeste Moonridge, you have a choice. Stand trial for your crimes and face the consequences, or renounce your claim to the Moonridge territory and accept exile. I'll never bow to you, Celeste spat. I'm not asking you to bow, Luna replied calmly. I'm offering you a chance to live. Your father is dead, killed in the battle with Morgana's forces. Your pack is leaderless. You can spend the rest of your life in prison, or you can disappear and never trouble us again. Celeste's face went white. My father is dead? He fell defending what he believed was right, Damien said, not without sympathy. Misguided, but he died as an alpha should. For the first time since Luna had known her, Celeste looked genuinely broken. The fight went out of her completely, leaving behind a woman who had lost everything. Exile, she whispered. I choose exile. Luna nodded to the guards, who escorted Celeste from the hall. As the doors closed behind them, Luna turned back to her pack. We have work to do, she announced. The other packs will be here within the hour, and the vampires won't be far behind. Tonight, we decide whether the werewolf nation rises again or falls forever. The pack erupted in determined howls, ready to follow their alpha queen into whatever battle awaited them. But as Luna moved to coordinate their defenses, she caught sight of something that made her blood chill. Through the great hall's windows, beyond the approaching lights of the werewolf packs, red eyes gleamed in the forest darkness. Ancient, patient, hungry. The vampires had been waiting for this moment for centuries, and now that the silver alpha had risen, they were ready to finish what the old wars had started. Luna placed her hand over her stomach, feeling the flutter of new life growing within her, and made a silent promise. Her child would be born into a world where werewolves stood proud and united, not cowering in the shadows. Whatever it took to make that happen, she would pay the price. The coronation could wait. The war for the future of their kind was about to begin. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe, like and share this video to continue listening to this type of story daily and also, to appreciate this community too. I would like to hear your wonderful opinion about this story. Please comment below.